Okay, Varapon.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our online meditation in October. Uh, from last session that Ajahn already explained about the Satima, I would say it's the best session that I ever did before. So I keep repeating and repeating. It's very, very good. I suggest that you should go back to listen because it's a summary or compile of the first session, Atapi, Kwampian, and then with the Sampachanya, the second session. So then become a Satima. Satima is a mindful being. So use sati every time that we are doing. And this is the best to develop the panya, wisdom, Bhavana Mayapam. And this is the route to go up. So I just introduced for the last session, and then we will see Pajan will repeat or we go for the further step because Mike and we missed last session. Maybe we can go back to repeat a little bit and then we can move on for the next session.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Back to this early morning session. Yeah. So before we go on to the proper teaching, let's practice a bit more, and then we'll have the discussions later. So sitting in a comfortable position. Leaving all your responsibilities aside. And gently close your eyes and relax yourself. You may spend a few moments concentrating on the breath. So feel the breath as it comes and as it goes out. So feel the breath as it comes and as it goes out. And relax. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. It's a moment of feeling and being here and now. Let's mute everybody so that there will be no distraction. When you are going to speak, then you can unmute yourself. So bring your attention to feel the presenceness here and now. Feel the body as it is sitting here. Do not generate any greed or do not generate any hate. Just the being there. No desires to be in this or to be in that. And no resistment. Why am I here? Why should I do this? So breath as the tool to be mindful in the present moment, here and now, as it comes and as it goes, as a foundation we're standing on, and observing whatever other mental factors arises, whether that is a desire, or whether that is discontentment, or whether that is grief, regrets. We're observing them attentively, but not having any attachment to them. Learn to pay attention to the breath. You may select the point to keep the mind focusing on, whether the tip of the nose or the rising, falling of the abdomen. One or another after chosen, anchoring our mind on it. And meanwhile, having a mindfulness to be aware of any mental states, a desire, a liking, a disliking, pleasant, unpleasant. And not swayed by it. But calmly in a relaxed position, observing the standpoint of the breath. And on that basis, whatever mental factors arises, mindfully being aware of that. To either be there to be mindful of that object, or just to be. So each time when we pay attention to the breath and able to be mindful of it in its entirety, how it is functioning, manifesting, and its character, that moment there will be no space for any evil thoughts, unwholesome thoughts. There won't be any space for it. And this is how we are overcoming any miseries, part by part, piece by piece, one at a time. If not, at least we are suppressing, not letting it to control, not letting it to navigate and become a discontent and miseries. while you are observing the breath coming in, going out. And due to the distractions, if the mind went off and distracted, it's okay. Do not generate any negativity towards it, or do not go along with the thoughts as a pleasant thoughts. So recognizing them, realizing that, remembering to coming back and return. Return to the moment, observing, aware, the breath coming in, going out, arising or falling. Breathing in, breathing out, rising, falling. An ability to be mindful of mental states, not swayed by the pleasant or unpleasant, and not dragged away towards the liking and disliking. Do not generate any desire to be in a liking or disliking, no resentment at all. Just being a mindful, or be. We bring your attention to feel the bodily sensation now, and bring your attention to your eyes. Feel the tension around in your eyes, creating intention to open your eyes and come out from the practice. So, good morning, everyone. Once again, we're all here to learn the meditation and how to practice meditation. So far, this year, from the beginning, I mentioned that I will concentrate on the 4 foundations of a mindfulness, different aspects of it. And with that, there was one session that I gave an overview of an entire 4 foundations of a mindfulness, and that was really, really heavy. It was so heavy that everybody felt like, going up into the big mountain. And after that, I decided to break into little pieces and practice into little pieces. And then recently I was contemplating on this 5 main words that comes within the practice of 4 foundations of a mindfulness. Whether we practice the contemplation of the body, contemplation of the feeling, contemplation of the mind, and the mind contact, mental factors. These 5 words are there to help us to develop our practice. So that is, number 1 is atapi, which means the ardent or effort. So urgency, ardently practicing without losing your practice. So ability to practice regularly, ability to cultivate practice, much improvement. And the second was the sampajanya, which is the wisdom factor, understanding and having a clear awareness on the things that we are observing, or on the things that we are mindful. And then my last session was on the satima, which I referred satima as not being a mindful, but mindful being. When we say being mindful, that there is an act that we have to do, we have to commit. Whereas if we become mindful being, then that means it's our second nature that we become mindful of it without any trouble. Whatever we do, we are mindful. So basically embodying that mindfulness as a second nature, and it's in our behavior. It's like a breath. We don't have to think about it. It's continuously happening. It's like when we are eating, we don't have to think how to eat. We straight away know how to use spoons and how to cut the food and how to lift and put it in our mouth. And as soon as we put it into our mouths, we know how to chew it. So we don't have to think about it. Or do you? We don't have to think about chewing it. Straight away, we can do it. So practice of a mindfulness is something like that. And normally we say practicing. Actually, it should be a second nature. Straight away, when things happen, we know how to do it. And without thinking of how, or there is no second thought. Straight away, we can react to it straight away. So that is the mindfulness that we have to develop. And which again, I normally also said that when we are driving, when things happen, we do not think twice. We straight away, we know how to stop a car when something happens in front of us. Mindfulness is like that too. Right? So we have to develop that nature so that we can use that mindfulness in our day-to-day life. So with that, we become a mindful being, not being a mindful of whatever we do, but we become a person that able to be mindful at all the time. So it's a second nature or a behavior. So with that, there no need to practice. There's no need to think about how can I practice. It's in our blood now. We know how to do it the moment when it happens. So that is a satima. And all these three, again, combines together, works together. Anything to happen, we have to work, we have to do. And then in order to do it, again, do it properly, we have to have some form of basic knowledge. So that's the sampajanya, the wisdom. And an ability to be mindful of what we are doing at that very moment. So that's why all these three works together, interconnected, interlinks. Although it's explained in a separate forms, but eventually it comes in a union. Now all these three, right? All these three are there to be mindful of what? To be mindful of what? So to be mindful of our body and a mind. Nothing else, nothing more. Body and a mind. And here, this body and a mind, whenever we come to contact with things, right? What we normally do, we straight away define liking and disliking. Right? So here comes the senses. We can bring our senses to active here. The world exists because of our senses contact to it. The world doesn't exist if we don't have the senses. Right? So this is like an eye seeing object, ear hearing a sound, smelling, taste, and body coming to contact with the world. The moment when we feel that exists. If we do not, then that doesn't exist. It's like so many things are happening around the world. Now, we do know that. Why? Because we see the pictures, we see the movies, clips, and we also hear that. If we do not hear, if we do not see, then those incidences will not be in existence for us. And the moment when those the stories come into existence in us, what we do, we straight away defining that liking or disliking, or basically developing the contented with that or discontented with that, developing covetousness, right, or a grief towards it. Right? So that's why the entire practice of a mindfulness meditation is basically to develop keeping our mind in balance, not swayed by anything, an ability to understand it that as it is. Right? So that's why the following two main, actually there are another 4 words come that call Vineyya, loke, abhijjadomanassa. 4 words. Vineyya, loke, abhijjadomanassa. So loke here means a world, the world. The world here beginning from our body and the mind. And then the world outside, all the things that's happening. Vineyya means this developing or having overcome, right? Avijja means covetousness or a desire. And then a domanassa is a grief or the anger. So because of not having a right understanding about, now first of all, coming back to our world as a body and a mind, right? Because of not knowing this body properly, we have generated this desire or covet, want to have it in a sense that we want to be always handsome or beautiful. Yeah, we can't deny that one. That's why there are billions of business out there for making us a beauty. Even just for a nail polishing, hundreds of shops out there. And hair salons. There's so many hair salons. In Aberdeen city, we go for a pindapata, collecting foods from the different houses every Friday. And then I have been walking in a different streets. And then I noticed every street, there are 1 or 2 hair salons. And every street, there are maybe 2 or 3 nail, nail decorating shops. And every time when I go around, I saw always somebody there. So it's a multi-million business out there. And that's simply because of wanting to be beautiful. Yeah? And this is not knowing that we always want to have unreal beauty that continue for a long time. That's why there are plastic surgeries. Yeah? And then what's called injecting yourself to be more beautiful, like that. It doesn't matter how much you do, but that unreal beauty, isn't it? Eventually, it just fades away. And so, unless you have real wealth, so that you can go and inject you every year. So that's unreal beauty that we hold on to it. And then also we feel so happy. We feel happy after seeing this unreal beauty. And then looking at the mirror and thinking of, oh, look at me, how beautiful, how handsome am I. And then covering with another layer of clothes that bought from maybe a charity shop or a high-end market. And then satisfying of that without knowing that this is actually temporarily. It doesn't last for long, and it's going to change. Yeah, and so this body is basically it's like that. It's covered by this skin, and we are just making this skin more beautiful and pleasurable. Actually, it is impermanent. It's changing all the time. Doesn't matter how much you look after it. And eventually, again, this is what we think, this is me and mine. Actually, it is not. That's why we have to work hard to make it as we want it to be. Yeah. So like that. And this is basically of being ignorant about this body, and we put a lot of energy maintaining it in this way. But having said that, doesn't mean that you can't do it, okay? You can, in a mindful way, in a suitable manner, not excessively doing it. So maintaining the body healthy and keep it well, well-being, not too much. So if I say that you cannot do it, you don't do it, then all these entrepreneurs will come and knock my door and saying, how dare you say that one? Ruining my business. So I'm not saying that you can't do it, but just mindfully doing it. So because of this ignorant about this impermanent, that this is going to happen, this is unreal beauty And then yet we enjoy that, and yet we feel so happiness with that, and yet we are holding on to it that this is me and mine. And as a result of that, we become a bias, isn't it? The moment when I see something, we become a bias. Whenever we hear something, we become a bias, making a decisions one or another towards, if that is a desire or a liking or pleasantness, we want to get it more. We want to keep it longer. And we want to keep it for myself. And then if we don't like it, and we feel discontent with that object or with that emotion, with that feelings, what we do, we try to push it away, straight away, push so hard so that I will not see you again. And here, the more you push, the more you hurt. The more you push, the more you hurt yourself. Okay? So that's why this loke is basically helping us to understand this body, helping us to understand that we got to overcome from this sense of acting or doing towards liking and disliking. By knowing that this body in fact is unreal, not beautiful, not handsome as we think, as we hold. And then it is always changing. No need to be worried about it. And this is not belongs to me. With that, we will not have a desire to go and do the plastic surgeries. And then also, meantime, we are not neglecting to look after it. We will be keeping ourselves in a balanced position. And the moment when we can keep everything in balance, not just this body, think about the feelings. All the feelings, all the emotions, if we can keep it in the balance, what happens? There will be no trouble at all. We can see for our physical body why when we do the plastic surgeries or do any other things to make feel us happy, we see instant results. But for the feelings, it is very hard to see it. By the time when we notice that feeling as such a hard thing and affecting us, it's been already gone far away. And that's why we got to see the counselors and psychiatrists and psychologists. That's went too far away. That's simply because of inability to recognize the moment when it happened, and we are continuously doing it, resisting it, pushing it away. And the same with our mind too. Our mind is also something that affects with these contact that we come across with every day. Every day. And because of not being mindful of what we are coming into contact with it, we are polluting our mind again and again, again and again. And this polluted mind, this polluted simply because of these experiences and emotions and the feelings that we come across. And with that, eventually, we are into the darkness. Right? And here, practice of a mindfulness meditation is basically, after we have understood it, rather than practicing it, we become a mindful being. In this way, what we are doing is that we are able to free ourselves from any form of a desires towards anything. Not dividing anything, but not having any desire either. And then in the meantime, ability to overcome from discontentment to anything that happens. Anything that we see, anything that we hear, anything that we smell, anything that we taste, anything that come to contact with our body. We are not making it, oh, this is good, this is happy, this is permanent, this is mine. We are not making that concept at all. We're simply seeing that object as the natural object, so loke, in this world as it is. So in this way, we are overcoming any covetousness and grief, because covetousness is basically the desire to want to have it, we don't have that anymore. And then grief or anger also we don't have anymore. Anger is basically not having what we want, or not being what we wish it to be. So that's why anger is there. Not getting what we want, that's the anger. So that's why the grief comes from there. Basically, I don't want somebody to be in this or in that way, and then that doesn't happen as we want it to be, and that's how we have a grief. So this grief is also not there anymore. So we will be able to overcome the grief and overcome this desire. When we can overcome that, what happens? Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. Doesn't make any difference to me anymore. It's like I have given a simile of a wind and a tree. When wind comes from this way, tree bends this way. When wind comes from this way, bends this way. So you are mindful. So when something happens, you know how to bend yourself without breaking yourself. But if you resist, wind will break you down. Like that's why 2 days of this storm in Aberdeen, many trees down because we're not able to bend along with that wind. So same with our life too, with ourselves too. When things happen, if we are unable to bend with that, not breaking ourselves, then we will break. But if we are mindful, then what happens? We will be able to bend along with it and then able to stand up for ourselves. And that's why the moment when we become mindful of anything that we come to contact with, each moment that we come to contact with and ability to keep our mind in balance, that moment, we are basically overcoming bit by bit, piece by piece. One after another. And we are gaining a confidence to work, gaining a confidence to stand up and work. Sometimes it's gone far away, and yet we are holding on to it. Like there was a lady, she came from Asia, married with an Asian in Scotland, but he was already here and got the right to live here. And somehow they got the conflict, and then they divorced. And after divorced, a man carried on his work, but this woman suffered a lot. Thinking of a why. So thinking that I have done this good, I have done that good, I was doing everything perfect, then why? And yet they have already divorced. So it's already past, and yet still holding on to the past memories and incidences and torturing herself. So the incident's already gone, and yet holding on to that past and simply not being aware, mindful of that. And whereas the practice of a mindfulness meditation basically what does it, that the more we become mindful of piece by piece, one by one. And if we cannot do it, at least when we are practicing paying attention to the breath or the rising and falling of abdomen, at least during the time when we are observing that moment, we are not bothered by it. We are not bothered by those emotions or the experiences, those memories and so on. So we are not bothered by it. So that is known as the suppressing of those incidences by diverting our attention to pay attention on the intended object, like the breath. So we're paying attention to that. So the longer we can pay attention to it, the longer we have suppressed all the hindrances that hinder. The hindrances, I think we have discussed it a lot in the past too. There are so many different types of hindrances, like 5 hindrances, right? So sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubt. These are the hindrances that normally comes and hinder us to walk on the right path and leads us to the miserable, okay? Miseries. And with that, we lose our energy. We lose our energy to stand up. We lose our energy to know what's going on. We are in a darkness. So basically what we need is here to be mindful, and then we able to abandon it. And anything that we become a pleasure or happy in terms of in an unreal beauty, then we will be able to overcome that. And seeing that these are nothing to worry about. Incidences are nothing to bother about. It happened, and then let it be. It's just there and it's done. They say done and dusted, right? So with that, we got the power to stand up and work on. That's why that is called the person who is mindful. That person has a power, and that power gain is the skill. And that skill is something that able to be mindful in every walks of life. And that brings the freedom from the satisfaction and discontentment in regards to anything. Anything that what happens. So we don't have any trouble at all. We become mindful. So we become a mindful being in every walks of our life. The moment when we can be a mindful being, what happens is that we are not far away from ourselves at any time. We become conscious of our body. How am I reacting, or how am I doing physically? In the meantime, we become conscious about what am I saying. Yeah, each words that we say, again, we become mindful too. And then with that mindful speaking, we will be speaking only what necessary, not a nonsense. Become a person who is speaking what is necessary, but not speaking anything useless, like that. And then meanwhile, it also helps to keep our mind pure and sharp into the target all the time. Because mind is not polluted. Mind is not distracted. Mind is not disturbed by any outside influences at all. Mind is pure. Nobody can disturb it. And it's with that, it's become very sharp. And then when we are talking about it, we know what to say in what position and which situation. So here comes, that's why I mentioned about the 5 precepts last time. Here comes the practice of the 5 precepts, so that we can keep our mind pure, sharp, and well targeted. And with this, what happens? Our mind is always in the moment of being mindful. We become conscious about physical action, our verbal action, and our mental thinking process. And when we become mindful in this way, all 3 that we were discussing in the past, whether the ardent or right exertion or effort, will be in the right position. Anything that is negativities, anything that is negative thoughts may arise, we will be able to reduce it by using the skill of being mindful. So we have this energy, which is a positive energy, to energize ourselves, to not to engage in any unwholesome activities, but to keep us in a bay, and encouraging us to do the right thing. Right? And this encouraging us to do right thing, basically the wisdom defines what is right and what is wrong, which one is wholesome and which one is unwholesome. So that's why wisdom comes and clicks in at that very moment to define what to do now. And again, to do that, we need to be awareness too, the mindfulness there and then at that very moment, acting that, okay, you are having this moment for awareness, this is happening now. And then with this moment, you are also having this two sides of the thought coming, to react or to respond, or the desire to have it, or grief or discontentment to resist it. This happened now. What do you want to do? So mindfulness is giving you a choice to make. Mindfulness is giving you a choice to make. Now, making a choice is up to you. So this awareness is there, and then mindfulness is giving us to make a choice. And this choice can be made in a proper way and a right way, simply because our mind is in a balanced, not swayed by either of pleasant or unpleasant or desire or hate. It's complete in a neutral position. And that only possible of being this mindfulness. And that's how we will be able to make a right decision. And this right decision, the consequences will be satisfying, right? And this satisfying, again, it brings a real beauty in us. So seeing the real beauty from not unreal beauty, and from the happiness that born from the satisfaction of what we want it to be. Now here, this happiness is born out of being not having it. So there's a freeing from that, right? An ability to see that even this happiness doesn't last long. So seeing everything is impermanent and changing all the time, even this happiness that I am experiencing is not last long. So there will be an inner happiness that is free from, free from any connection or conditioned by anything else. And then whatever experiences that we are having, then again, we are not attached, not having attachment to it, that this is my happiness, this is my one, and this is I am, I should be like this, I should be like that. So nothing, that attachment is there anymore. So, and here, these moments of wisdom arises simply because of the continuously being mindful. So that's why, rather than being mindful, I would encourage you to be mindful being, so that whatever you are doing, you are always mindful. It's like a second nature. When things happen, when you see things, you straight away know that this is. When you hear something, straight away you know that this is, and you're not swayed by that, and not rushing towards making any decisions or comments on that. Straight away, we just simply, like if you're driving a car, you manage to stop your car and then change the gear into the neutral position and relax, okay, and enjoy. So that is the moment. So every moment becomes a moment of practice. Every moment becomes a moment of you being there and practicing. Okay, so that is the last 4 words, called the Vineyya, loke, abhijjadomanassa. Basically, in a short form, having overcome covetousness and grief in this world. Or another form, or another way of looking at it, is basically overcoming from desires and discontentment from all forms of the things that we come across with in this world. Basically, this body, feeling, and a mind, and let it be, and not let the hindrances sway us to make decisions that brings the miseries in us. Okay, so this is for today. Now let's practice for a while, and then we'll get your questions and discussions. Okay? So sitting in a comfortable position. and relax yourself. You may gently close your eyes and spend a few moments on the breath. So you may wiggle yourself to find a comfortable position. And spend a few moments on the primary object, the breath in the nose or the abdomen, whichever you feel comfortable with. And try to be mindful as you are paying attention to any object. The moment when you have a sense of a feeling of liking or disliking. Of wanting and not wanting. So consciously, sometimes there are creeping in, wanting to do more, like let's say the practice of a meditation, wish I can do it longer. Watching that desire. Or maybe sometimes the memories comes and develops towards discontentment on certain issues, certain things, certain people, certain jobs. And noticing of that, and again, keeping a balanced mind. There are two ways of doing anything that happens. One is to suppress by disconnecting it and distracting ourselves onto something else, or knowing that actually as it is, that happens as they are, and seeing that actually it is not beauty as I think, it is not happiness as I thought. I thought this is permanent, actually not, it's changing. And with that, we can disconnect our desire. So this is part by part, piece by piece. We are freeing ourselves from that. So try to relax all the muscles and then your brain in particular at this moment, as you're having so much going on in your brain now. So let it relax. You may smile to relax the brain, to ease. And when your brain is relaxed, settled, rest become ease and comfortable to be mindful of. And every time when things happen, just to be mindful that is there a desire to hold on to it, or is there a discontentment and resentment and anger, and try to push it away. Neither of that we are engaging it. We are aware of that state and not having any desires, discontentment on either of it. We have breath as a foundation to stand on, as a platform, and observing things the way it is, in this way. And we may channel it to understand the body, ourself, contemplating on body, not having any desire this body to be this way or that way, or should be in performing this and that, or disliking or discontentment with it, but being aware this is the body, that I am using it and looking after it, but not attached to it. Same with the feeling. Any feelings that comes, any feelings that we come across, whatever feelings are there, not developing the desire to have that pleasant feeling, or not having this hatred towards the negative feelings. Whichever we react, that becomes emotional towards positive or negative feelings, and that emotional feelings become a cause of emotion to ourselves. If that continues, and then cause a trouble. And so free from all the biases, just knowing that feeling as it is. Keep a balanced mind. Similarly with our mind, the thoughts, whichever state of our mind is, whichever thoughts are bubbling in our heads, knowing those thoughts exactly, not swayed by it, and not letting it to control our behaviors and actions. At this moment, often people found that they become very chatty in the head, which is okay. No need to worry about that. Because our mind always needs something to think about. Our effort is simply not to let it to think any negative, but cultivating any wholesomes. Nevertheless, if you feel restless and finding difficult to be mindful, then simply rest yourself on the breath. The incoming breath, outgoing breath, arising, falling of the abdomen. The practice makes us skillful in how to keep the mind in balance on the object when things happen, an ability to comprehend it in its entirety. So with that, we are overcoming all the evil thoughts or defilements. So now bring your attention back to the body. Feel the sensations in the entire your body. Bring that attention to your eyes. Feeling the tensions in your eyes. Creating intention to open your eyes. Slowly open your eyes and come out from the practice. Oh, now thank you very much. Now this is your time to share or a question if you have any, or if you have understood clearly. Sadhu, Anumodhana. Good luck. Okay, floor is yours. Any questions, anything you want to ask? Unmute yourself and then you can ask. Yes, Jonas?
Yes, I have a question. And it's when you have understood the mindful way to do everything, and you know how you would do it and how you can do it, but you are confronted with restriction. Like I have an injury, for example, and I'm eager to work, to look after myself, to do it the right way, but I can't because my body told me, okay, you did it too much, for example, and it is happening to me. I have this like tendonitis in my arms, and how do you deal with that? Or even in the mind, if you are confronted basically with aging, because with aging you will be reduced more and more, you will be confronted with, oh, I can't do this anymore, I can't do this anymore, more and more and more, until you die in the end. So I don't know. It's basically my question of how you can create this acceptance constantly with limitations.
Suppose you are on the bus. Yeah? You are on the bus, and then there are no seats at all. Yeah? There are no seats at all. You have to stand. Now, initially, you are standing at the front, and when people come in, what would you do? You will move to somewhere less people. Yeah? And then you feel comfortable. Why do you do that? Why you moved from the initial stage and went back?
To adjust everybody, to accommodate yourself and everybody.
Yeah. So basically that's the same thing. Now, your body has some troubles that you cannot do. You got to be mindful that there is a limitation, that this much I can do. Now, what will you do? You will not be able to do things. You have a desire to do many things, but body is limiting you to do. Now you got to be mindful between the ability to do and your desire to do. See? Okay, when you become mindful of this, what happens? You have to balance in both. Not too much desire and you want to do it, and then you become upset, angry to what? Angry to your own body, which is unable to do. It has a limitation. Right? So mindfulness teaches us to make it in balance, so that body can also do as much as it can. Also, desire is not too much desire, but ability to be mindful of coming in between. Like you said, when you are in the bus, right? You move so that accommodate everybody. And here also same. Mindfulness help us to make a balance. And there will be no trouble. Because there are certain things that we cannot take control. And certain things always will be like that, like the getting sickness and old age. Doesn't matter how hard we try. It's not under our control. That's why I said it is not belongs to us. It's not under our control. And this is actually not a substance that we can keep it as we want it to be. But our desire is we don't want to get old. We don't want to get sick. Yeah, so again, here we have a desire. And then the reality is something different. Now here we have to bring it together and make it a balance. Okay, make it a balance, that not ignoring of this entire body, that it's going to sick anyway, so why I bother? No, we got to look after, we have to look after as much as possible to keep it moving. And then it doesn't matter how much we look after, it is going to be sick. Doesn't mean that we are not looking after it at all. we have to look after it so that we can minimize the effect as much as it can. And here, now we have to look at in two ways. So there is a desire, and then there is the existence of this body, which we have no control over it. And now, normally what happens is that we have a desire not to get sick, not to get old. And that gives us more trouble, which is beyond our control. Now, practice of a meditation or a mindfulness meditation, that's I mentioned in two ways. One is disconnecting or distracting ourselves completely, ignoring it. It's okay. And with that, we don't see it, so we don't troubled by it. And the second is we know it, but not disturbed by it. So the second part is we know it, but not disturbed by it. So that's why there is a bodily sickness, but not mentally sick now anymore. So we have no desire not to get this body get old, or not to have this desire to get it sick. We understand that this is a natural thing that will happen. So let this body sick, but not the mind now. Okay. So with that, again, that's the first stage. Now the second stage is understanding this mind itself, that normally it desires or it resists. And this is a natural existence of it. In order to be free from it, we use this investigative mind that we call the manasikara, which I mentioned a couple of times as well, ability to investigate it properly using the wisdom that everything is changing, changing nature. When everything is changing, then why worry? So that wisdom clicks, and that wisdom changes our perception to everything. That we think this is real, we understand this is not real. We think that is permanent, we understand this is not permanent. We think this is mine, then we understand this is not mine. And then we have no trouble anymore. So that's why Buddha used the simile of two arrows hitting one person at the same time. So when you have a bodily pain, that's only one arrow hitting you. But if you complain why I shouldn't be having it, then you have a double pain. So double arrow. So double arrow pain. And our practice basically freeing that both from it. So that's why this practice of a mindfulness meditation helps us to be free or overcoming from those stages. Okay?
Thank you.
So don't worry if you want to get sick and get old. But doesn't mean you cannot look after, okay? Okay. Anybody on that? We wants to. Yeah, unmute yourself.
Yes, one. Yeah, I think I can relate with Jonas. Like, you want to control, you want to do things, but sometimes you have to accept that the situation or yourself, there is some limitation. You just have to adapt and accommodate yourself. Like, okay, this is what it is. No point getting upset that you can't do what you want to do. Just have to like go with the flow sometime. Just to share what experiences I have not long ago, because I think it's something to do like how you react to what a certain person say or do, because you have the perception of that person. It's like, oh, you turn into a defensive mode just hearing or reading what that person said or do. It's actually very neutral. You just like read it neutrally, you would not have that reaction at all. It's just like, oh, that person must come that way. Actually, maybe not that at all. It's just very neutral. Just so sometimes I just reacted right away. I was like, oh, this is it. But then I just, okay, take a deep breath, step back 2 steps and say, reread the whole thing. Like, maybe it's not that bad. It's just how I react to it. It's a reflex, probably, to a certain person or a certain situation. So I'm trying to be more mindful in everything, mindful being, but working in progress on that one. But yeah, it does help instead of like getting all upset and foaming out of the ears. It's like, well, actually, maybe it's not that. Try to be less reactive to it and just read exactly, hear exactly what they want, then just respond the neutral way instead of, oh, no, defensive. But that's not helping, because then it creating domino effect, I think, because then the person will like, oh, she's not doing, or she's not reacting the way I want. So it's out of my control. So instead of trying to think of like, oh, why that person come to me that way, which is okay, this is what they want, just respond neutrally, and then just end it that way, finish it there, instead of keep going back and forth like a ping pong, not helping anyone. Yeah, so that's what I just want to share.
Yeah, thank you very much for that sharing. Normally, when we are in a defensive mode, who is suffering? We suffer. That person doesn't know at all. And in the meantime, we are making that barrier, and we dig our own hole. And so-called, we are digging our own grave. We are suffering, and we put that coldness, that defensive mode in our heart. And with that, we shut down everything, all the things that we should be doing, things that we should be communicating, we cannot do anymore. And the deals that you have to do, you cannot do at that deal anymore. So in that case, my understanding and my practice is that when I do not like somebody, I go and talk to that person in a kind way. And when somebody doesn't like me, I go and be humble, do things that I can do. And with that, it's not for them, actually, for me, myself. Knowing myself, my mental state, my emotions, my feelings. When I able to come across with that, overcome that, I am free. I am free. And this is my skill. That skill of ability to put myself in a balanced way. So that's called yoking oneself. Yeah, yoking. Y-O-K-I-N-G. Yoking. Yoking means ability to keep in balance. And this yoking, the simile comes from when you are plowing a field, you have 2 bulls in both sides. And then these 2 bulls, you cannot put both the same height. You cannot put same age, and you cannot put these 2 bulls same skills. One will be skilled one, another one is not skilled one. And that's how you train to how to put plowing the field. So Buddha used this simile, that how to keep the balance in both ways. So our mind also, we will be able to yoking that balance between these 2 sides, 2 sides of a bulls that we have. When we manage to keep our mind in that yoking oneself in a balanced way with this mindfulness, then we will be able to plow the field for the right cultivation. And you can plant anything there, whatever you want to plant in it. So that's why practice of a meditation is basically we are getting the power, and this power is basically a skill to yoking ourselves in a right balance, so that there will be no trouble. We become a very open-minded now. So our minds and our heart will be in a state of a balance. Our mind becomes very open, and then patiently ability to observe, accept, patiently keeping our mindself in a peace, and then it's okay, enjoy, nothing to worry, like that. So things that we do and mindfully doing things, that's how we become a mindful being. With that mindful being, everything becomes no trouble, nothing to worry, nothing to attach to on. Simply there is like just to be. Right? Now that is what we are hoping to, at least, hope to get. So journey continues. So the practice is basically ability to be there and be mindful, and the ability to use the mindfulness in everyday life so that we become a mindful being. And this mindful being basically giving us energy to do and giving us a wisdom to understand, and then let it be. That's how we are learning to be. That's why it's called cultivating our inner self and developing new culture inside us by removing any unwholesome things that we may have and replacing with something that is more productive. So developing the inner positive culture in us. Okay. Right. So anyone else? There's another one I wanted to add a little bit on the concept that understanding the world here. Buddha is basically in this practice pointing at our own mind-body, which I mentioned about it. But again, this mind-body classified into 5 aggregates, components. And that's called the rupa, or a matter, feeling, vedana, and then a sanya, which is perception, and then formation or volitional formation, sankhara, and then a consciousness, the vijnana. So that 5 aggregates are known as the world. So there is a simile given by the Buddha saying that if you want to know the world, know this body. Okay? Know this body and a mind. When you know this body and a mind, you know the entire universe. So practice of a meditation, mindfulness meditation in Buddhism that we all do, starting from contemplating on the breath, simply to settle up ourselves, and then developing the energy and wisdom and awareness and mindfulness to have no distractions between either or another, from desire to contentment, and ability to keep the balanced mind, basically to understand this, so that we will not have the misconception of these 5 aggregates as the beautiful, as permanent, as it is mine, as it is giving me such a pleasure, but ability to understand that this is unreal, this is not permanent, and this is not mine, and so I cannot have a permanent pleasure with it. And with that understanding one simple task of our own mind body in this way, then even myself is not that beautiful, myself is not permanent, myself that I think it is mine is not mine, and the pleasure that I am thinking of, the pleasure of me, myself, actually not a pleasure. What about the rest of other things outside of my physical body and my mind? That's also subject to like that too. So no need to create the desire to change, desire to make it mine, desire to make it permanent, but let it be. So let it be. It's like there is a word called patinisakho, means throwing it back to it, throwing back to it, to the nature, let it be. When we can keep it and let it be, basically we become a mindful being. Everything is just be like that. So that is the another point that I want to highlight on that. So that's the entire practice, is basically to understand it and let it be. So throwing it back to the nature and let the nature look after itself. So no need to worry about getting old and a sickness and why. There will be no double arrow suffering, only knowing there. Okay. Right. So with this, let's practice a bit before we finish our session today. Again, now sitting in comfortable position. So bring your attention to the moment here and now. Spend a few moments on the breath. Settle down yourself. Mindfully aware of anything that's happening in the body, in the feeling, and in the thoughts, in the mind. Not having any attachment to even the breath, because it is just the tool to train ourselves to see things as they truly are. And not having any desire to be with something, or neglecting resentment to something, whatever experiencing. Simply knowing of that in its true nature, rather than pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling, or feeling of contentment and discontentment on that particular object. Whenever mind is distracted, there's some other thoughts or feelings, just to be mindful and ability to be returned back by recognizing it. Realizing that you are away from the intended object. And remembering to come back and return without generating desire to be with that feeling or battling to reject it. Freeing ourselves from any engagement towards any objects, any experiences, without generating this pleasure or pain, ill will or distress. Not letting these hindrances to hinder our practice. Even though we may not be able to overcome from it, at least we keep ourselves in balance, yoking oneself with the meditation. Keep the mind balanced, not swayed by it. Now bring your attention back to body. Feel the sensations in your body. We're going to practice the loving kindness meditation. Connecting with your body. Feel whatever sensations around there. And bring that attention to your hands. or whatever sensations in your hand, just be mindful of that. Feeling of cold, heat, hardness, softness. Shift that attention to your heart. Feel the beating heart. And if you can't feel the beating heart, physically smiling will connect you. So smile. Smile to yourself. Bring a smile on your face. And as you bring the smile on your face, you feel connection with your heart. Or you may put your right hand on the left chest by the heart and feel the heartbeat. And as you feel the connection with your heart, or feel the heartbeat, developing loving kindness and compassion to yourself. Allowing yourself to be happy, at peace, and free from suffering. Mentally, you may verbalize, I am happy. I am at peace. I am free from suffering. So mentally, you may verbalize for a few moments. And each time when you are verbalizing this, I am free, I am happy, I am at peace. See, how do you feel in your entire body and how that affects to your emotions and feelings in your heart and mind. Because genuinely you're saying to yourself, I am happy, I am at peace, I am free from suffering. Feeling for joy, lightness, and happiness. And so relaxed, so peace. If you are placing your right hand on your chest, you may lose yourself and put it back in your laps. And if you are sharing loving kindness and compassion to yourself, just be with it. extending our loving kindness and compassion to all other sentient beings, starting from near dear one, thinking of someone who is near dear, or any person that the person really needs at this moment, bringing into your mind and wishing, may you be happy, may you be at peace, may you be free from suffering, may you be liberated. And extending it to the beings in the entire universe, whatever beings there are, visible and invisible beings around, in the room, in the city, in the country, on earth, in the universe. May all beings be happy. Sharing this loving thought and compassion to all other beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free from suffering. May they be liberated. Now bring that attention back to your hands. Feel the sensations in your hand. Whatever sensations are there, the heaviness, the lightness, cold, heat, softness. And expanding from that to the entire body. Observing any sensations in the entire body. And to your eyes. Feeling the tensions in your eyes. And creating intention to open the eyes. And as you open your eyes, try to be mindful of the light coming through and seeing. So, intention to open your eyes and slowly opening and observing things. And reflect for a few moments. Okay, so thank you everyone for the session today. I hope you all enjoyed and take away some practice at home, and we'll see you next session. So
Thank you.
wish you all have a
Thank
good
you.
weekend.
Thank you.
Anybody anything to say?
Thank you so much. It's a great session again, yeah. And I'm sure we will practice and repeat it again. And I'm quite sure it's very useful for us to use it in daily life. So we will see you again next month.
Okay, wonderful. Right, okay then, have a good day and see you. Satu.